So just by stylizing the DEM, we will not get us there because it still doesn't look real. The color looks real, but the perspective isn't. Okay. So one of the main things is that, I mean, this thing here is illuminated on all sides. There's no shadow, so you can't actually see where the valleys are. You can't see where the ridges are. So it's just like, I don't know, another piece of abstract art. So in order to enhance.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm not doing driving this very well here. So.
In order to enhance the terrain that's being visualized on screen, we have to create something called a relief shading. Okay. Well, I don't have to read out the quote from Wikipedia. You can read through it, but basically it takes all those places. So we assume that there is a light source somewhere on the map. Like it could be here, it could be there, anywhere that we set on screen. And then we are trying to project light onto the terrain. And then there will be, therefore, if we put, say, the light here, the sun, let's assume it to be here, then since those, let's say, I think these areas, they are mountains, so a shadow will be casted on the eastern side of all the ridges and mountains. And if you, usually we don't set our sun to be directly on the west or east. It's usually like somewhere, I don't know, 45 degrees and 45 degrees angle. Somehow they always look better that way. Okay. So if you look at the section of relief shading, okay, well, right next to the guy, the photo of the guy, you can see approximately how the relief shading works. So the terrain is illuminated, I think, probably from the southwestern side. Therefore, the shadows are casted mostly onto the northeastern. You'll get that image in your PDF. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Like this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. That's fine. You work on what you're working on. So, yeah. So if you look at the image here, you can see that it's illuminated from one side, and that's really important for any users of topographic map to get a perspective of what they're looking at. Okay. So back then, it took a lot of work, sometimes weeks, sometimes actually months, to actually paint out each of all those relief shadings. So when I was in Germany, I was the last in the department of cartography to learn about doing this by hand.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Well, I don't think they've done it since, but the Germans and the Swiss, they are really famous for the topographical maps that they produce. So that's the best people to learn from. So I actually had to do it by hand, doing painting, and also wood carving. So if you just paint them one by one, you can't reproduce them. So I also had to do shadings and carving and all this relief shading one by one, like carving using hand in wood. Yes. So yeah, so we don't do that anymore. So Nilesh,
Yeah.
had already done that, haven't you?
Which
Like
one?
the part where you create a relief shading.
Yeah.
How long did it take you?
I was
Yeah. So like what took those people weeks and months in the end, it only takes seconds now.
So where do I find the relief shading option?
So it is what we do here is that we actually calculate the relief shading from the DEM itself. So what we have to do is to add the DEM once again. So we just yep. So we can actually add multiple same data set again and again and stylize them differently.
I see. And
Yep.
yeah, just open.
Yes. All right. So now it's sitting at the top.
Okay.
And then if you go to, again, go to properties and then style.
Oh, right.
style tab. Now we could change the render type to hue shade. So hue shade and relief shading are the same. And then if we could, we can just leave everything as normal. So the azimuth, we are assuming that we are shining the light from 315 degrees. It's actually showing you here. It's shining from the northwest corner at a degree of 45 degrees. So here we can leave it all like that, and you can play around with different settings a bit later. If you click OK, that's it. That took months.
Yeah, very nice. Now, is it possible to have that like a mask on top of the colors?
Yes, that's
the
point. That's the point. Yes.
Okay.
So. So let us say set the transparency of this layer here, the hue shade layer. You go back to properties again. And there's a whole section of transparency on the left-hand side. So transparency tab. The global transparency, if you could set it to about say 70%. Yep, and click OK. How does that look?
I also added the lakes.
Yeah. So at the moment, your legs are between those two layers, so you might want to drag it. You can.
Oh, I see. You can also. Oops. Okay.
Yeah, just okay, and then drag it to the top. Yeah. So that it's actually sitting on top of those layers. So yeah, you are about the hue is a bit different here, but now you see how the terrain was created on Google Maps. This is how it was created. It's not done by hand, it's done by computation. So even we got to this stage where we have the relief shading and possibly some random topographical data on the map. Well, I shouldn't say map. On the canvas, it is still not a map, right? The things that we talk about, they're still missing. There's no legend. We don't know what it is. Okay? We don't know what the scale is. We don't know what this thing is about. Okay? So to rectify that, first we will play around with those topographic data. So we will, those vector data sets, like the roads, the forests, the urban area, the rivers, the lakes, the shingles, the snow, we will put them all back onto the map, onto the canvas. And then we will stylize them one by one.